Hello and welcome to Dish Shelved with Adam White. It's been a while. I just haven't had a lot of reading time lately. I've been putting some time into some gaming activities and I just haven't got around to reading much. But I read a few things dealing with the hobby of uh, Warhammer 40,000 and also the Warhammer Fantasy. And I've read and listened to several different things that I thought may be of interest to you. The first thing I did was on the Black Library audiobook app, uh, and you can also get it, I'm sure, on the Games Workshop website. I think it was a few bucks cheaper on the app, but it was called Dredge Runners by Alec Worley, Worley. I don't have anything to show you because it was just a little uh, image on for the thing, but it was an audio drama about Bagot and Claude, which are an Ogren and a Ratling, which are two different types of kind of like sort of humans. One's overly developed, like almost like an ogre, and the other one's uh, a small person. And it was done as an audio drama. It was a little over an hour long, and I was really entertained by it. They've kind of mustered out of the military and are working as kind of like not really private investigators, but just they just kind of work for people to find things or get things. So I guess they could be kind of private investigators, but it's part of Games Workshop's crime Warhammer crime line, and I it was funny and it was well acted and it was just a really entertaining audio drama. And it, like I said, it was a little over an hour, and uh, it was just it kind of got you in a good primer into the world of Warhammer 40K, and it it was just a really entertaining story. Now, Alec Worley has also written a novel based on those two characters that's new called The Wraithbone Phoenix. I got it. I've got it on Kindle, but I haven't read it yet. I'm going to read it though because I really enjoyed the audio drama. So uh, that was very entertaining. I mean, I can't say a lot about the plot or it'll give it away because, like I said, it wasn't that long. But it's if you look through the Black Library is Games Workshop's publishing wing for books about Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40,000. Uh, and that's all I'll say about that. The next thing I read was this. It's called Dice Men, The Origin Story of Games Workshop. It's by Ian Livingston and Steve Jackson. And they're the two men that created Games Workshop back in the early 70s, early to mid 70s. Uh, it's available on Kindle as a hardcover. I would recommend getting the hardcover. When I was originally researching getting it, I saw that the Kindle version there's some formatting issues with it because there are a lot of images in here, and I would recommend getting the hardcover book and not the Kindle version, which the hardcover is what I've got. But you get firsthand retelling of the origin of Games Workshop and how they went from being uh, a little just kind of a do-it-yourself uh, miniature gaming hobby place uh, to being the gaming giant that they are today. You don't really get the story past probably the mid 80s to early 90s, you get limited because most of this book is by Ian Livingstone, and he got out of the business, I mean, not the gaming business entirely, but out of Games Workshop at that time. So it really gives you just a lot of the stuff before the fantasy and 40K became the mega engines of miniature gaming that they are today. But you get an idea of how they started in a little one-room place where they said with the two of them, if someone came in to buy something, one of them had to go out into the courtyard because there wasn't room for more than two people in the store. And they kind of started out and were living and working out of their van, and how they started gaming conventions over, because they were over in Great Britain, in London, and I think it was London, but they are a suburb thereof. But it tells how they went from that to bringing on people. They made a magazine called Owl and Weasel, because they said you had to be smart as an owl and crafty as a weasel to get into gaming, because that's how you had to play the games. And then they later canceled that and created the magazine White Dwarf that's still in publication today. More on that to come. And it shows how they started in the miniatures business because they thought that it was great to have as accessories to your role-playing games, and then moved on to where the miniature gaming became kind of a game in itself. They were a lot into wargaming and Dungeons and Dragons. They became, almost by accident, the publishers for Dungeons and Dragons in Great Britain when they talked to Gary Gygax that created Dungeons and Dragons. They became the distributor for Europe, and they only had, when they started, they only had enough money to buy 6 Dungeons and Dragons boxes to start with, and they of course immediately sold them. And it's funny how they tell these little stories that make up all these things, of how they were kind of a fly-by-night operation to becoming the the mega operation that they are now. They have lots of images in here. These are some of their early miniatures. They've all been painted for the book to show them off. And you see there's lots of dragons and monsters and things. It's got full illustrations throughout of just there's the original Dungeons and Dragons. But they went from being a distributor of other people's games to their own games. And it's just a really fascinating look back at how people started a company about something that they loved doing and really made a go of it and turned it into something magnificent. So if you're interested at all in gaming of any kind, this is a really great memoir to look into that with. The next thing I started reading was White Dwarf magazine. I used to have a subscription to this, but I just kind of fell out of the gaming stuff for a while. And I picked up a few issues. And as you can see, there's some really nasty looking villains on these covers. But these have articles on the games and on 40K and Age of Sigmar, which is the fantasy, the current setting for the fantasy miniatures. They have fiction for both Sigmar and 40K, and then they have another one for Black Library at the back that's usually a serialized short story. And so those were fun reads. Uh, I got if I can get it in frame there, but I got 3 issues in a row. I've got one more after this too, and more on the way. But they just have lots of information on the gaming. They've got fiction. They have lots of stuff on the hobby and painting miniatures and all that kind of stuff. But it's just really fun magazines. Lots of good stuff in these, and I really had a good time reading them. And you read about the games that the people that run the magazine play, and it's just everything you can think of about the gaming hobby for Games Workshop you'll find in these pages. And like I said, along with some couple different things of fiction each time. And I really enjoyed those. The next thing I got to was the Minka-Lesk Omnibus, The Last White Shield by Justin D. Hill. This has 3 novels and 2 short stories about Minka-Lesk. The first one that I read is called Cadia Stands. Cadia is the world that she's from, and she was kind of a really small player in the first book. I had actually read it before, back when it first came out, and really liked it, but the other ones weren't out yet. So then, now that I've kind of come back to the game, I looked up and saw that there was an omnibus that contained all that, and there's also one more book and one more short story that's not in this that have come out since then too. So I'm looking forward to reading the rest of this. As you can see, these omnibus editions are really thick. They've got a lot of stuff in them. But it's a story about the war for Cadia. The first one in here called Cadia Stands. And it is just a really bleak, nihilistic novel about war. But you're reading about it in the Warhammer 40K universe. And it's about multiple soldiers that are in this Astra Militarum army. And like I said, Minka herself is kind of a bit player in the first book, and I'm assuming she becomes more in the next ones, because she kind of moves up the ranks as she goes from what I've read. But really entertaining. She's a really entertaining character, even though there's a limited amount of her in this. But there's also several other characters, General Gruber, General Creed, and General Benedict are the other sort of main characters, and you get a lot of sense of them, and you just get little pieces of other soldiers and their part in the war. And I mean, you might get like 3 pages or a page and a half even of one little battle group in a tank or something, and they all end up dead in like a page and a half, but you really get a good sense of them before they die, and you really feel for them when they do. And because a lot of people die in this book, I won't I can't say anything else about it, but I mean, it's a horrendous war. And if you enjoy reading books about war, there's even limited, even though it's a Warhammer 40K novel, it really works as just a war novel. And there is, some, a lot of science fiction elements to it, but even if you're not into science fiction, you could read this as kind of a straight war novel and get a lot out of it because it was really entertaining. Like I said, it's very bleak and, almost to the point of nihilism, which uh, is kind of like real war. I mean, I've never been in a war, thankfully, but, there's plenty of wars going on right now in this world, and there have been plenty in the past that you can read about. And I thought Justin Hill did a really good job of getting across just the horrendousness of war in this first book. And like I said, I can't wait to get to the other ones. But I wanted to go ahead and do a video on it because I'd read several things here that I've showed you today. And I won't say much else about this because you really just, if you like 40K, if you like, books about war in general, this is a really good one to get. A lot of the 40K omnibus editions you can't get in print anymore. This one, thankfully, I was able to get in print. I've got a lot of them because I bought them back when they were more available. Now you pretty much have to get them on Kindle, or you can get them as ebooks straight through Games Workshop, the Black Library there. But really entertaining story. Like I said, you really get into all the characters' heads, even ones that are just there for a few pages even, or maybe a chapter, but you really get a lot out of it. And Justin D. Hill did a fantastic job writing this, and I'm really looking forward to the other ones in this book and beyond. So I highly recommend this book, Minka Lesk, The Last White Shield by Justin D. Hill. You can still right now get it in paperback because it's a newer one, but you can also get it on Kindle as well. So really entertaining book. Can't recommend it enough. That's everything I've got for you right now. I know that was just kind of a mishmash of stuff. Um, I wanted to do something because it's been almost a month probably since I've done a video. So I hope you were entertained by that. I'm going to be reading a lot more Warhammer stuff coming up. So if I do any videos, it'll probably be on those. But I just wanted to get one out there because I hadn't done one for a while. So hopefully that helped you make some reading choices. If to not to show you that there's lots of different ways you can get into the hobby of gaming with Games Workshop, nonfiction, fiction, hobby related stuff. There's just a lot of ways you can get access to it, and I think that's fascinating to me. And I've read a lot of Warhammer fiction, both 40K and the fantasy, and I've never read one that I didn't like. I've read a lot of them in the past. It's been a while, but I've never read one that I haven't liked. So I highly recommend the Black Library selection to you. Anyway, that's all I'll say for this time. Thanks for hanging out with me. Sorry I went on so long about this, but I had a few things to talk about and just wanted to get them out there. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you when I see you.